Welcome to the podcast She is Fab, where we discuss all things Fab, women empowerment, and life coaching. My name is Evelyn, also known as the Fab Chieftess, and I am a mindset transformation coach. Hello, all, and welcome to another episode of the She is Fab podcast. I am Evelyn, your host, and today I am joined by Phung Tran. She is an ACSM Certified Exercise Physiologist, and if you're excited about changing your body to your ideal body type through healthy exercise and habits, she is your woman. So Phung, tell us a little bit about you and how you became certified.
Hello, thank you, Evelyn. And yes, I am an ACSM Certified Exercise Physiologist, and one way you can think about it is like a personal trainer, but with a little bit more education. And I became certified simply because of my personal story, and it all happened sort of like between middle and high school, those puberty years. And in middle school, actually, I was in Vietnam, and so I was competing in judo. So it's a Japanese wrestling, semi professionally. So not too much, like I didn't go too far with it, but it was still like something that I do pretty regularly. So we're talking about me, working out and being active for like 10 to 12 hours a day. Wow. No, a week, not a day.
Okay.
A week. Yeah, that's crazy. That would be like competition time. That's when you work out that much. But normally it would be like that's a whole week. And so when it came to the U.S., obviously, we couldn't afford doing judo anymore simply because it is not as popular in the U.S. But also there is a risk of me getting injuries because I was competing. So I sort of stopped. But the problem is, I stopped being as active, but I didn't stop eating as much. And so obviously my body sort of ballooned up, and coupled with, puberty and going through high school, all of that. So it sort of, made me not feeling good about myself, and, sort of have a slight depression. I wasn't like diagnosed or anything, but I felt very bad about my body. And so when it times to go to college, I would, ask around, ask my counselor, and then I just major in a thing called exercise science. And there I just learned all about the human physiology, anatomy, like how many muscles you have, how they join or whatever, and then about psychology, so what happens, but also how to motivate other people to start working out. And ever since then, this is something that I've been doing. So just apply my own story to other women of color. Like, my story is this, but also we have a lot of women also struggle with their body image as well. And then I would just want to help them to overcome that sad feeling, and feeling down, and actually like take control of the narrative to their body.
I love that. I think it's very important. You're not just a trainer, you're not just working with somebody to give them an exercise plan. You're actually more informed and educated on the internal aspects, right? The physiology with the form, but also the mental that goes behind it, right? What could be self sabotaging with how you eat or your thought pattern. So that is amazing. And something else you mentioned is that you yourself went through an experience where you were no longer getting the same amount of exercise, but you kept eating the same, and so that caused you to gain weight and feel either self-conscious or just depressed with your own image. And so you were able to break out of that, right? Determine a path forward. Now you want to help other women to do the same, especially women of, like you said, color. Because if you think about it genetically, there can be a little bit of differences with like predisposition, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I relate to you, actually.
Oh.
Let me just say that I was a high school athlete. I played basketball, I played volleyball, so I was in the best shape and I ate whatever I wanted. Once I left high school, though, I kept eating and I ballooned as well. So I went through my own physical journey to bring my weight back under control. So this topic is near and dear to my heart.
Oh.
So tell me, Fung, we talked about the fact that you do training, but again, you have formal education and you're certified in order to help people not just adjust the physical, but work on the internal. Is there anything that is the most important to you that you preach when you're working with a client regarding their mental state?
Oh, definitely. And that is, be careful about what they see online. Like, one of the thing actually that I do with them is I would ask them to, send me a couple of pictures of people that they admire. Then we will look and see if there's any manipulation. And more often than not, there is. And so what's happening is those people, they are, they look good already, but they also edit their own photos and images so that now you're comparing yourself to like an impossible thing. And that is very bad when you're already at a bad state and you don't want yourself to like trying to like achieve this sort of impossible image that nobody would be able to do it. And so now you're feeling even more depressed and you can't even get started. And instead of that, I'll show them like, yes, these people, like they actually have these. But if you look in the background, you see some lines, you see some blur, you see some like swirling, like, oh, they actually change, a bit. And that's not to like dump on them or anything, but what you have to understand is that what you see online is also like just a slice of their life, and they actually do try to manipulate it to make it look even better.
That is such a good point that you brought up, because this is a topic of conversation that I have with my girlfriends, a lot, if not most of the time. But social media is basically everybody's highlight reel. Let's face it. You put your best foot forward when you're on social media. What's been happening though with social media is that people are putting an image out there that is not always the reality of who they are with how they look physically, right? There's also the fact that there are people who, beyond like photoshopping or manipulating the image, they've actually gone to get plastic surgery, which further alters, that perception. So people are looking up to these role models or wanting to aspire to have a similar body shape, when in reality, you can't, because one, it's either a Photoshop manipulation or they got plastic surgery.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a good point you came up, because actually like, I've been going through different, magazines, and, a lot of plastic surgery doctors, they've been saying like now they have a trend of people trying to manipulate themselves to look more like Snapchat filters. I forgot the terms for it, but there's actually a trend of people trying to do that. And yeah, like, that's not real. Like if you're somebody who wants to look naturally good, that's impossible to get.
That's insane. I didn't realize people were doing that. Like, first of all, filters are crazy. Like, I'm a fan. I use them, myself when I'm not feeling like putting on makeup. But I also, put my true face out there so people know me with makeup and without makeup, right? And with the filter. But to want to actually take the next step of wanting to transform your physical into what you see in a filter, that's kind of scary.
Yeah. And so that's the biggest problem I see, because a lot, I work with primarily women, although like a bit of men, but they compare themselves to like another different type of things. But yeah, so that's something that we do, like basically, the first month is us, go like processing what those are, so that we can move on. And because yeah, I with them, like, yeah, you can apply makeup, if you want to, you do a bit of plastic surgery, like there is no wrong in that, but you have to understand what you see online isn't real. And so if you're just beginners and try to look natural and listen to these people, and then this is their natural thing, that's false.
Yes, and guys, those of you that are listening and watching, we're not saying you can't get plastic surgery, that it's a bad thing, or that using filters is bad. What we're talking about is the perception that is being put out there, right? Where you're claiming to be something naturally when that's not the case. You're skewing that perception and causing folks who may not look like you to feel a certain way about themselves because they don't fit that mold or that expectation. So to each their own. Do what you want to make yourself look better and feel better. Uh, Going back to the topic of the mindset, though, I think that is a really great first step, Fung, that you're actually asking them to show you what they admire in another person in terms of the physicality. And then you're helping to assess whether it's feasible, whether it's real, which in turn helps to work on that internal perception that they have.
Yeah,
What else do you
definitely.
do?
So once we've like they have, like sort of got to that point, like they sort of like, understand, like absorbing a bit. Obviously, like it's not an overnight change, but it's sort of like they can over like process. And we'll do a bit of exercise, and so that's something we start in the first month as well. Like we would try different types of exercise because let's face it, like the way you yourself exercise is much different than mine. Like you did
Mm-hmm.
basketball, I did wrestling. So the way we work out is already different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what something I want my clients to know is that there's no one right way to work out, to lose weight. You actually can be able to do different things and see, like try experiment with different things so that we'll see which ones stick to you. And that's one is
Mm-hmm.
when you're able to do for the rest of your life. Because one of my thing to do is, once you'll be able to work with me, probably you won't need me again because like you already
Mm-hmm.
have a sustainable habits, a good mindset, and some like what you think about exercise, that if there's a new thing out you don't mind trying it, but you don't have to like jump to different hoops, like hit exercise like cardio, like all this different kind of things. You can just,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'll try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't, I'll go back to my already established routine. And that's
Mm-hmm.
something that we do throughout the 3 months that we're together. So like we'll try different exercise, see if they like. And like they just can go to the gym if they want, or if they want to work out at home, I have that as well. And that's when they sort of got into like, okay, this is how you should approach your exercise. But then we also go into your diet, because apps are made in the kitchen. And a lot of my
Yes.
clients are trying to lose weight, and and it's like 70% of weight loss is actually based on diet, and it is proven by
Mm-hmm.
science, like all of that. And so that's what I'm trying, like they don't have to like go to salads, because I hate salads. Same thing with exercise again, like they have to try to figure out, like I'm like with them on the way, but experiment. So that's why my science backgrounds come in, like we would experiment safely so that you can try
Mm-hmm.
out which sort of things work for you. So like one of mine loves to have ginger ale every single day for some reason. And I'm saying to her, like, you don't have to cut it out completely now, because I know if you do, once you're done with me, you're gonna go back to it. So instead of
Mm-hmm.
doing that, try to just have a can and then split it with your mom. Think about it,
Mm-hmm.
like, or you live with her, or your friend. You're like, you still have ginger ale, but it's less. So
Ah, I love that.
see, so then you can slowly change it. So now she only has it like in the weekends or when she goes out with her friends, because like
Mm-hmm.
she's now used to not having as much sugar. But she slowly wean off. It was like a cold turkey thing. Same thing like
Mm-hmm.
with everything about diet, because like for me as a woman of color, a lot of thing about diet is like you eat salad, and me, like, I'm sorry, but we don't eat that. That's just like you're just saying, like, I'm sorry, but that's not possible. Like, yeah, I'll be able to stick with it like a month, but that's it. See,
Yeah.
and same thing about sustainability. You have to figure out how to fit your culture, what you're already
Mm-hmm.
eating, into a healthy range, so that you'll be able to keep it up, for the rest of your life. Because when you're working with me, I don't want you to keep coming back, like like
Mm-hmm.
keep working with me for like whole year, because that's like very counterproductive for me. Like that's boring,
Yes.
like you want to, like, okay, you're done with it, you move on. Like sometimes we can do checks in if you that's something you like to
Mm-hmm.
do, but that's it. Like once you're done with it, you pretty much have a foundation so that you can go out and keep doing that what you're good at.
You made a lot of great points, but the one I'm going to start with is the one you mentioned most recently, is the fact that obviously we're women of color, and so culturally our diet is very different from like American food or
Mm,
Americanized food. We have salads, yes, but they're not. the typical, what you would expect, like a Caesar salad or like just greens. So the fact that you, as a health individual, as a physiologist, are coming at it from, okay, not only am I wanting to work with women who are the minority, who are of color, but I'm also going to take into consideration the diet that is based on their cultural preference. And instead of eliminating everything, we're going to work that into what the health plan for the diet is going to be. And that's really important because I can tell you, I've worked with trainers. Never once has a trainer said, oh, culturally, what kind of foods do you eat? And then worked with me to include that. It was like, no, chicken and salad. And it's just like, what about like putting some flavor? What about like having rice every once in a while?
Oh, I have rice every day. I don't know what about you, but like I'm East Asian, so like that's every day. I'm not cutting that out. I'm sorry. Like I don't care who's your trainer is, but like
yeah.
no.
Well, culturally, in my culture, we eat rice every day too. I personally don't, because I'm trying to, be a little more health conscious, but I do have it often, in my diet. And something else that you mentioned, which I really like, is working with them and experimenting with them to figure out what exercises would work best, right? There's two things in that. One, you might hate a kind of exercise. I hate burpees. I mean, I still do them because I'm forced to sometimes, but I hate burpees. So if my trainer was open to being like, all right, let's do something different, I'd be like, yay, I'd be happy about that. And then two, as you mentioned, even if you played sports, different sports work different parts of the body, different muscles, right? So you might be really good at, like you said, wrestling, and I'm good at basketball. And if we switched, even though we're physically fit, we would struggle because it's a different, muscle group. So the fact that you take that into consideration, what kind of exercise do they like and what fits what they're working with physically, that's awesome.
Yeah, and what comes to that is also the energy systems that you use is completely different. Like when you do different, so like what you do, basketball is more endurance types. For me,
yes,
when I compete, it's done in 4 minutes. I've worked out for a whole year to show up in like a couple of 4 minutes matches. And so the way my my muscles and then the energy system that I perfect is much different than from yours. So like I'm not gonna last. If you put me on the court, I'm like 10 minutes, I'm just down, and I'm like, oh, Treacher, get her out.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't have that endurance anymore. That was in high school. If we play basketball now, you get a couple of runs from me and then we're done.
See, that's when, because what you train, what you focus on is different. And a lot of mine is too, like, yeah, if my friends wants to do kickboxing, I'm like, okay, your energy system, what you understand is you can sprint very fast, but you're not going to be able to run like a 26.2 mile marathon. That's something you have to accept.
I love that. So, wow, I'm learning a lot, guys, and the only reason why I can speak on some of this is because, as a former athlete and I've worked with trainers, I understand how some of this works. So again, Phung works with you to determine who you want to model yourself after physically, and she'll help to see if that perception is accurate, if it's healthy for you. She helps to work with you on your mental state, right? Altering that so that you are more successful as you're working on your physical state. And because she works with women of color, she takes into consideration your diet at home, your cultural diet, not just, the other side of things. Not that it's a bad thing, but let's face it, American culture, that food versus ethnic cultures can be very different. So a lot of great points there. I definitely recommend that you guys check her out if you haven't, because there's so much she can add. And again, specifically to working with women of color. So tell me, we've talked about a little bit of the mental, right? How you have them first send you the photos to see who they model themselves after. is there any work you continue to do along with the physical on the mental? Any additional steps with that?
Usually, we don't really need to do it because like once you're past it, it's mostly like, how can I trim my fat in my belly or under my
Mm-hmm.
armpit, and it comes to like now is them taking control of their body and how it looks, but also like that's something you can't do. And so I just have to educate them that yeah, like you don't lose fat in a specific type like areas, like you lose it
Mm.
all out. Like I have done DEXA scan, which is basically an x-ray to look for where your fat is throughout the body. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's costly, like because I was in college, so we did it for free, but if you do it by
Yeah.
yourself, it's $2,000
Oh my
out of pocket.
goodness.
I'll tell you that. So it's not something that, because then that's one of the thing we, okay, like you want to do this, like they see somebody else like trying like, oh, you can do trim fat here and there. I'm like, no, you can't. You have to lose it
Mm-hmm.
throughout the body. Or I have friends who's like, oh, I want to have a thin belly, but I want to keep that booty. That's a real concern for us women. That is a real concern. And I'm telling them, you
Mm-hmm.
can't lose that booty. Like, girl, that's your genes. You have it huge. That is your genes. Maybe
Yeah.
you might lose it later when you hit menopause. That's like,
Mm-hmm.
2 decades from here or something. Like, you're not losing it. So don't worry
Yeah.
about that and just keep working out and, like, try to focus on getting yourself back to that, healthy range. And one thing
Mm-hmm.
about the healthy range is that, for a lot of us, BMI, especially for African descent people, it's a little bit off for them because their bone density is much higher than say white descent or East Asian like me. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's something that I want them to know, like BMI, but also use your measurements like waist to hip ratio, all of that. So you have to take into consideration a couple of different measurements to see, okay, where is my healthy range, and then come back to that. That's what we need to focus on. And don't
Mm-hmm.
worry about your booty, guys. Like, if you have them, you're gonna keep them after you lose weight. So no worries about that.
I'll tell you where I hold all my weight. It's right there in my booties. That's another good point that you brought up because it's a common misconception. And I used to think this way too back in the day before I was more educated that you could lose body weight in certain areas. Like go to your trainer and say, hey, I want to lose weight specifically right here, right in my belly or right here. And it doesn't work that way. When you're exercising and trying to get healthy, it is an overall process where the body in its entirety, trims down. And so your shape, right? Your body shape, regardless of whether you're thin or fat, is your shape.
Yeah.
You're going to retain that shape. It'll just either expand if you get bigger or detract, as you get thinner. And I think, again, this goes back to the whole conversation of social media and the perception of bodies that you see somebody who has a small waist and big hips, and you're like, I want to have that. But if your body isn't shaped that way, it doesn't matter if you lose weight. It's not going to create that shape that you're looking at.
Exactly.
This is why I tell folks all the time that as a mindset coach, my whole thing is the internal, both mental and physical. And I tell them, you can't focus on social media too much. You can't focus on the external too much. You have to really be happy with who you are as a person and what you have, because what you're seeing out there is just everyone's best moment, their best picture or foot forward. And something I want to bring up regarding social media that I think is a positive movement, there are women out there that are posting, this is what the Instagram shot looks like, but this is me normally. So they're flipping the narrative to show like, hey, this image is what I'm putting out there, but this is who I am on a day-to-day basis. So that I love.
Yeah,
Have
loving
you
that.
seen that?
Yep. So actually, like, I think I follow the hashtag Instagram versus reality thing. So like I would
Yes.
have regulars of those. And yes, those people are doing great things, especially when you're having like a big platform, like you have a lot of people follow and you're showing them, yes, this is this, but also I am this. So we're moving away. So a lot of people are, you know, getting to know about it, but you have to understand, like, because we as coaches, we're so entrenched into our areas, we get
Mm-hmm.
up to date immediately. A
Yeah,
lot of people don't. Like you would
this is
ask,
true.
that the body fat thing, we've known it for years. You and I, we know it for years, but we just like random person, they still have that belief, and that is something
Mm-hmm.
that we need to work through, and more people need to go out and say that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, because you are working with individuals on their body image and their physical fitness. Have you had anyone come to you who was maybe suffering from body dysmorphia?
No, because I know that I shouldn't be the one to help with that at first, because yes,
Mm-hmm.
I am a exercise physiologist, and so that's where my areas is. So if anybody has like something more, then it's just like slight things like you see online, but it's actually like an illness. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not the person you should come out to ask for help. Like I can work with your physiologist, or your psychologist actually, and then we can help and work together. But I cannot help you, because I didn't learn psychology down to such a level for
Mm-hmm.
diagnosing other people with mental illness, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
any life coach or whatever. So that's where I have turned a couple of people away just because they're not in the right state of mind. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you're working with me, you're just going to waste your money. And I want to be clear to them about it. And I tell them that you need to reach out to these other people, like to help with this first, because your
Mm-hmm.
body dysmorphia is a huge thing. And if like I'm telling them, like, oh, look at this, they just like, it's maybe not going to stick to them. And I'm not trained to work with such, a degree that I'm comfortable with, accepting them into my program.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, I have to take a moment to just give her a round of applause, because this is something I talk about with other coaches. You have to know as a coach where your boundaries are with the service you provide to a client, right? A lot of times, certain skill sets overlap, right?
Mhm.
Whether you're a coach, a counselor, or an actual therapist. But when it comes to any sort of illness, whether it's mental illness, whether it's an illness that is physical to the body, you as a service provider need to know when you are not able to help, when you need to refer them to another individual or entity who can help them. And I'm really glad to hear that Fung is of the same mind, where she knows her boundaries, she knows her expertise. And if something comes up where she's not able to help, she's not just looking to take your money and waste time. She's going to send you to a professional who can help you with what you're going through in the moment. So, round of applause for
Oh,
you.
thank you.
So, is there anything that you're offering in terms of a program? I know you have your maybe training sessions, but is there like a program or any new offerings, or just tell us about what you offer your
So
clients?
I'm sort of like preluding to this the whole time,
Mhm.
but I do have a 3-month program called Polish Your Possibilities, and basically in it, that's what I do with you. Like I've been telling you, like month 1 we'll go over body image, month 2 diet, and month 3 all about exercise. But we do exercise throughout 3 months. It's just like month 3 is
Mhm.
when we really drilling in, because you're already pretty much good with the other areas that exercise is my thing too. And that's what I'm offering right now. It is a 3-month program, and basically you're the lead. Like I would see what you want to do, and then we would do experiments with you together, so that by the end of the 3 months you'll be able to build confidence in your body image, and also to make decision about your health, like whether or not it is like trying a trainer, trying a new class, or trying a new exercise, or even deciding, is it right, like when you go to the doctor and you do blood tests and you be like, okay, is it right for me, like all of that. So
Mhm.
that's what I'm aiming to help people within 3 months. It's like you will build
Mhm.
confidence and you'll be able to advocate for yourself.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So it's a 3 month program. You start out with working on the mindset, right? What they're modeling themselves after. Then you start to incorporate the diet. Granted, you're still doing the exercise, but it's a transition up until the
Mhm.
3rd month where like you kick it into high gear.
Yeah. So that's when like you have to get, because we do have, a recommended amount of time you need to work out in a week, and it is 2 hours and 30 minutes every week. That's the bare minimum to be healthy.
Bare minimum. Okay.
That is your bare minimum. And obviously I'm not trying to tell people like you have to work up to that, like, like in a week. That's impossible, but we could
Mm-hmm.
slowly build up, and you have to know if you want to stay healthy, and within that is the minimum you need to do. Obviously you can do more, but try not to do less from here.
So how do your clients normally get in touch with you or anyone that's interested? Are they going to your Instagram? Do you have a website?
I do have an Instagram and a website, so you can go visit me on Instagram at Be Active is Easy. I know the grammar's wrong. And also, I do have a website. It's the same name, beactiveiseasy.com, and you can find a bunch of fitness tips and tricks, and different things you can learn. Like on my website, obviously, is more into details than whatever I put at Instagram. So Instagram is quick thing, and you can think, but if you want more information and more explanation, you can go to my website and see my blog.
Yes. And guys, as usual, we're going to put all of our details in the podcast details, in the YouTube details. That way you can get in touch with her and check out what she's about. Obviously, follow on Instagram and support your fellow ladies. I'm curious. So, on your website, do you have maybe any sort of like sample diet plans? Like this could potentially be what you might eat, or
No,
is it tailored to
it's
to
tailored.
what they eat culturally? Okay.
Yeah, so because I'm not like a black person, so their food is much different because I live in Atlanta and it is
Mm-hmm.
predominantly black, and so
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat the same food, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
try to change them, and instead, because my plan isn't to like completely overhaul their diet or anything. It's just like tone down the bad stuff and then just bring up the positive things in their diet,
Mm-hmm.
so each person has their own thing.
Mm-hmm. And again, what I love about the diet portion is that we're not, like she said, overhauling anything. We're not making you only eat salads. She's really looking at, what your day to day is,
Mhm.
what you eat culturally, and just making adjustments, right? More moderation. That way you can still enjoy
Mhm.
the things that you're used to enjoying.
Right. Right. And the thing is, you be able to keep this up. Like, I don't want to see you 2 years from now and be like, oh, I'm back at ground zero and I need you again. I don't want it. That means I'm a failure if you do it. That's how I see it. Like, you don't need me. Like, you might need to check in to me once in a
Mm-hmm.
while, but you don't have to, like, oh wow, 2 years now, oh, I gained this 20 pounds again, help me. I'm like, oh, so then I'm a failure because how did I let you do this?
That is so important, that you say that, because the role of any coach or service provider um, is to give their clients the tools that they need to continue and be consistent with positive behavior, right? You
Mhm.
don't want to see them back at your doorstep. Obviously, it's nice to be needed and wanted, but we want to make sure that we equip you so you can go out there and conquer the world. So it's really great that you make that a component of your training and your program. I do have to ask though, do you have any clients, or have you had any clients that they just keep coming back? They just want to continue working with you?
Actually, no. Surprisingly, that they would ask me to like update their exercise program because they moved past whatever thing we left off,
Mm-hmm.
or they would ask me like, I'm trying out this new group, what do you think about it? This is what my new trainer said. And so they would come back to me and ask about those things, but it's like usually a quick checkup. I can't just answer, like,
Mm-hmm.
because trainers out there, they're sometimes using like random machine that you hold on and be like, oh, your metabolism is good. I'm like, what? What is that? Like, they would tell me like, you're doubting everything I tell you, and I'm like, yes, that's the point. You can't just
Mm-hmm.
go out and then believe everything. You gotta like take it with a grain of salt, and that's my job after people finish their program. Like they're pretty good. It's just an upgrades, and they keep asking me if this is the right thing to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Now, I am curious too, were you coaching and working with clients before COVID?
No, actually not. I just train before. It was just my friends, like because I was in
Mm-hmm.
college and I'm like, I'm bored, what do you want? So and then because yeah, I worked out with an exercise group, and it's also a self-defense class. And so
Mm-hmm.
a couple of ladies there also like like us, we work out together, we keep each other accountable. And so that's how I got myself started. And when COVID hit,
Mm.
I graduated.
Oh,
So I
gotcha,
was
gotcha.
bored. I'm like, oh, I can't find a job now because my job requires to be in person more often than not. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh wow, I'm bored. I'm really bored. So I need to
Mm-hmm.
do something, and that's why I started this whole uh, whole thing.
Gotcha. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I would have been curious to see how that would have been different for you, pre-COVID to COVID. But I'm sure that you have found some challenges in establishing your business, during COVID, because as you say, most people are used to doing it in person.
Mm-hmm.
How have you found it though, being that you set this up
Mm-hmm.
through COVID? Do you feel like you're still getting, enough contact with potential clients?
It is something hard, to be honest, and it's because like I don't want people to keep coming back to me. So there are months where I don't have any clients, but I do understand that this thing I started is mostly to help people, and it is a side business.
Mm-hmm.
It is not my full-time job, and I'm not counting, because I'm being realistic with myself. Like the first 2 years of your business, you might not be able to make any profits, and it is
Mm-hmm.
something that I've kept in with myself. And I have a business coach to keep reminding me of that, and it is all right. And it is more about what the things for business, I'm doing what I feel good about. I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
force myself to serve another boss. That's what I have my real-time job for. I do work at a community gym now, and I still help people, but there are different things I do there, because yeah, it's in a gym, I have a boss. But for my own business, I'll do my own thing, and it's fine if I'm not making the money this month, rather than like, oh, maybe because then you don't come across with your audience like with abundance. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
just trying to force yourself down to them, and that's something I don't want to do.
Yeah, thanks for offering that perspective and for being so honest and candid with your experience. I like you. For me,
Oh.
it's not about the dollar, right? Obviously, the dollar and what you can get financially is a plus. But at the end of the day, we both chose our respective fields because we want to offer more, we want to help, and in some way be of service. So I'm very happy to hear that even though you do have challenges,
Mm.
that is not your sole focus, and you have the full understanding that it takes time. It takes time to build a business, and like you said, maybe the first or second year, you might not see something. Right? Not
Mm.
everyone gets to hit the lottery right away, right?
No, yeah, because I mean, I don't, you see me, I don't look like your typical personal trainer, and I know that. And so it's gonna take time for people to start noticing that. And it's, like, and especially now when it's harder to go out and meet new people in person, it's just gonna take a little longer. And, you have to accept that it is what it is. Like, it's gonna take some times.
I love your personality. I love your outlook on things. And based off what I've learned from you so far and what I've seen, you already have a really great coach mentality. It's not a selfish mentality. You really are out there to help others get to where they want to go. So, Fung, before I cut you loose and let you get on with the rest of your life, is there anything that you want to share with the audience that I might not have asked you?
Well, one thing, like, that's what I hate about other people doing online stuff, is their fitness challenge, or 30-day challenge, or whatever. I just can't. If you want to ask me like what is the my biggest pet peeves when I work online, is that like I can't. I'm like, you're not like, what are these challenges about? I'm sorry, but maybe you'll be able to do it with your mindset, because or your copywriting, or writing a book, but it's your physical health is not going to change within 30 days. I don't know who came up with this, or whoever thought, because I mean, if you want to lose 20 pounds in a week, I can, like, I'll show you, it's not hard. But are you going to keep it up? Like, or is it something you want to do?
Doesn't sound healthy.
No, and that's just, I can't, like, when I deal with those, like, when I see, even before and after photos, I'm like, oh wow, so now is the whole thing is about your body image now. Like, what is this? Like, you just like breathe in so that all your abs is shown or whatever. Like, because for me, like, if I'm normal, because I'm normal, you won't see my abs. If I'm like flex everything, you see the bit of abs, and I'll tell you, like, what, like, do I show this down, like, just hold my breath and then try to take a picture? And the funny thing is that too, like, even with men, like, I would have to touch base a bit, because I maybe like somebody in your audience is a man, and my professor, he looks like Jesus back in the day. I'll tell you, he's white, he got his beard, he got his brown hairs going, and I'll tell you, he took photos for Men's Magazine as a models. He was a model, yeah, and he would tell me he wouldn't be able to eat or drink within the 24 hours of the photo shoot. So think of it, like, what you see, all the muscles you see on the magazines online, there's no water in those, because he told me, like, you can flex, and then you do all kind of pictures, but then once you're done, you drink, like, all those muscles are gone.
Yeah, I actually have a friend who did bikini modeling for a bit. No, sorry, not bikini modeling, bikini competitions.
Oh.
And she talked about how extreme the diet is, to the point where you can't even have salt. Like, you have to cut out so many things from your body to sort of dehydrate it in a way where it makes those muscles more visible. But once you eat normally, it's all gone.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying, like, I can't stand any fitness challenges. Like, I see them, I'm like, oh gosh, like, it's because, I mean, we live in a world of instant gratification, and health and mindset aren't one of those. Like, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, I have to throw a wrench into what you're saying there, though, because when I see a challenge, the way that I think about it is they're trying to start or kickstart somebody into doing something. Not necessarily maybe having them achieve everything in that amount of time, but just starting the process. Right. You don't see it as that way, as I'm just trying to kickstart somebody to start to work out?
Because I don't know, within fitness, maybe like with your mindset thing, it's, a kickstart, but fitness, there's always a promise of weight loss in it. And so that's, you have an outcome that you cannot 100% control.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
The industry, like, I'm not sure about, because maybe, like, if you challenge, like, writing in your diary every day, that is something you can 100% control. But you're trying to tell me I can lose 10 pounds when I'm done with your challenge. That is not something I can control, because most of the people, yes, they might be able to do it, but some they can't, and what happens next. And so that's my problem with those challenges, especially in my field, is that the outcomes that they advertise aren't, the thing that you can actually do. Like, you can 100% promise that's not the case.
Yeah, especially because, to your point, as you were saying, as we've been talking, it takes a lot more than just exercise to achieve results, right? Your diet is the most important, actually. I know, because I was the kind of person who would work out an hour a day to an hour and a half, but I still kept eating, the same way. And there wasn't much change there, because food is a big component. But there's also the mental, right? There's that accountability. Do you actually have the mental fortitude to stick to what it's saying? And you also don't know what these people that are advertising before and after, if they actually followed that plan, or if they did something more. So I get your perspective now.
Yeah. So if the challenge is about, doing 5 burpees, what you hate, a day, like, for 30 days, that's fine. Like, I don't mind it. But if you promise, like, a concrete goal, like something, a real outcome, then no, like that is not something we need to promote and, you know, make people feel even worse about themselves than they already
right
are.
when they don't achieve it, right?
Yeah.
Well, I will say this was a very interesting conversation. I definitely learned a bit more to add to my already established knowledge on the physical fitness from personal experience. And as I said, I'm so glad to see that as a coach, you're putting out there all the positivity, all of the abundance, and really trying to be of service to your clients. So, guys, as I said earlier, we're going to put in all her details, right? Instagram, website, that way you can check her out, connect with her, find out more about our program, and maybe talk to her directly and see if she can help you on your journey. Any last comments, Fung?
I think it's amazing to talk to you. Oh my gosh. Like, it's been a long time since I have somebody who's like went, you know, was a former athlete to talk to. So it's been an amazing experience. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Evelyn.
I'm so happy. And of course, we're going to stay connected. This is not the end of it. I'm so glad again that you joined me today, that you have been able to share your wealth of knowledge and expertise, and I will follow you and support you on your journey.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. All right, everyone. So as I always say, preparation, accountability, execution, and resolve are keys to your success. Until next time.